Master of Time, Daily Operations. Mayher Archive Collective is buzzing with activity. Though our permanent home is still being renovated, volunteers continue sorting and scanning precious collections. Some of the most exciting treasures of the Shaw family collection are the letters which Elizabeth Patterson wrote to Darwin Shaw about the development of the center. Elizabeth and Nordeen were with Baba in India at the time these letters were written. Correspondence was flying back and forth, sometimes daily. These letters from 1947 through 1949 demonstrate that there was no small detail overlooked in Elizabeth's purview. From digging of ditches, clearing the land, selling timber, to getting a phone, Baba's attention to detail comes through in her care and directions. The expression "leaving no stone unturned" comes to mind. Though Elizabeth doesn't write often directly about Baba, as his guidance was already an understood factor to Darwin, she occasionally writes something so thoughtful and revealing that we all can glean inspiration from it. The example shared today is from a 6-page long letter which Elizabeth actually wrote to Mr. and Mrs. Shaw, Darwin's parents, and sent a carbon copy to Darwin. When she refers to Mr. Shaw, she means Darwin's father. Darwin's parents were early boots on the ground for center work until Darwin was able to move his family there for a year. In this very detailed letter, Elizabeth covers everything about center upkeep and maintenance, from tea grounds and sinks to termites and moths, from Nippy the dog's care to counting the spoons. Certain buildings were already on the center, and Yupon Dunes and a cottage called While Away were part of the overall property that she gave instructions for. Besides seeing to every practical detail in this letter, the opening and closing paragraphs express that wonderful flavor of working for Baba and having full trust in his wish and will. In this August 1st, 1948 letter, Elizabeth has just returned to India after being in the U.S. for a very busy 2 months, where she saw to many aspects of the Mayher Center's development, including the signing over of the center into Baba's name. Elizabeth's matter-of-fact perspective about Baba's remarkable timing of her return trip to India is quite touching. He is the master of time. Elizabeth writes,
Copy for Darwin. Please, Darwin, take contents of this letter and former letter about the 2 new projects very accurately and give full report here. August 1, 1948. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Shaw, I am certain that you know of my safe arrival in India, as I cabled my husband and asked him to inform you as well as others, because I knew you would be thinking of my flight and would be interested to know how everything went, although I do not think you would be concerned due to the fact that the date was approved by Baba. As a matter of fact, there could have been dangers if, as I didn't, go 2 days earlier, as the airfield at Cairo had a couple of bombs thrown down on it 2 days previous. Also, instead of coming directly out to Ahmednagar, Baba had me stay over a day and a half in Bombay before proceeding. I imagined it was to have me rest up, but when I found that the train on the day of my arrival at Bombay had been derailed, needless to say, I was glad that Baba had arranged for me not to come then. The dates Baba sets have a meaning one cannot possibly know until they experience the accurateness with which he works, as he is master of time as well as eternity. have been thinking over, as I am sure it is on your minds too, what Darwin must get fully acquainted with upon his visit the middle of August. While you may think of other important items, I will at least name the following.
The letter then has 5 more pages of instructions for upkeep and daily operations. Here is part of page 3. It's fun to read the inventory section. Baba wishes an account of everything that is there, down to the spoons in the kitchen. Elizabeth writes,
Inventory. This is to be taken when Darwin is there, and copy sent to Baba in India, as well as copy kept in Yupon Dunes, and a third kept by Darwin. Baba has expressed a wish to know what is in every room of every house. This must be done with great thoroughness by Darwin, together with his parents, at Yupon Dunes and the center. As soon as tenants leave while away, this must be done there. For this purpose, a simple plan should be made of each house so that the list can correspond with inventory and be easily followed by someone who has not been at Myrtle Beach. List of while away should be made by Mr. Shaw and sent Darwin for typing after September 1st. All linen, blankets, chinaware, silverware should be itemized as a whole with subdivision as to its location as to floors. It is to be understood that Yupon Dunes, While Away, and the center have each to have its own complete inventory, room by room, as to furniture, carpets, mirrors, pictures, etc. As for the kitchen, itemize cooking utensils, pots, electrical equipment, furniture, etc. The garages, the basements, laundry are also to be itemized, clothing and closets listed. Also suitcases, electric fans, and other items therein. Darwin may find ready-made books for this, but anything sent to India will have to be typed due to weight. I know this will be quite a work for Darwin, but you must please help him, as this is what Baba has asked. When they do come from India on a visit, it is necessary to know ahead of time just what is there.
Elizabeth's love of animals is well known. In this long letter of maintenance and upkeep for the center properties, she doesn't forget to give an important note about Nippy, her dog, not to be confused with her earlier animal companion, Kippy. She writes,
Nippy and cats also know where the veterinarian lives. Darwin should make friends, especially with Nippy, and he should have him as much as possible with him so that the changeover will be easier. Nippy has had several masters already, and it is easy to get his affection. Explain about feeding Nippy and the cats. Darwin should do it a few times so they know him. Between October 1st, when Mr. and Mrs. Shaw leave, and October 2nd, when Darwin and family arrive, Nippy should stay with Joe Chestnut overnight, who must be fully conscious of his responsibility until Darwin gets him.
Sometimes Elizabeth writes of herself in the third person, as if writing a report. In this example, we see how she even deals with employee management all the way from Marazad. She lays out the conditions for worker Joe to use the center's truck. Then we find a clarifying side note to these conditions after Baba read the entire letter. His instructions simplified the truck usage guidelines. Yes, Baba personally sees to each detail. Elizabeth writes,
Joe Chestnut has to have work laid out for him each day ahead of time. The agreement is that he stays at the center every night and works a half a day. He is an employee at $90 per month. He takes orders from Mr. Shaw and later from Darwin. A young man of this kind must have a feeling of responsibility by reporting each day to someone and know that they have authority. He cannot be allowed to do as he wants, or make use of our things as he pleases. If this is permitted, it will only end by our not keeping him. Mr. Shaw is aware that Joe has already used the truck for his own purposes. Elizabeth found him downtown with our truck delivering watermelons to Chapin Company from his own farm. She cautioned him not to do this again. Since that time, Mrs. Shaw has seen our truck standing in front of Joe's mother-in-law's house. It must be understood that it is for going and coming between his house and the center only. The side note about the truck. Baba has just read my letter and says that as Mr. Shaw does not drive the truck, the keys are to be given to Darwin when he comes and the truck not to be used until he returns October 2nd. Darwin should use truck when he is there and see to it being in good condition. Joe Chestnut to drive the Jeep.
We know it all worked out with Joe as he continued as a great help to the center in those early years. No effort is too much when one is trying to please the beloved. Elizabeth's love for Baba and her frank and natural style comes through in the closing paragraph of this letter. She writes,
I am fully aware that the above sounds formidable when typewritten, but most of it is all in a day's work to Mr. Shaw, who lives and works there. Darwin may know a good deal in general, but has not gone into the details of the daily operations. Therefore, I have taken the time and trouble to write this lengthy letter. It is not exactly fun to sit for the several hours that it took for the above to be written. Yet on the other hand, when you know that all I do in relation to Myrtle Beach is in preparation to Baba's coming to America and the smooth working of matters in anticipation of this event, of which we who love him all yearn, then you will all know the spirit in which this is thought out and conveyed. Norina sends you her heartiest greetings. Baba has had me send personal messages to Mr. and Mrs. Shaw and to Darwin, as he dictated himself, that you will receive before this. Very best to Mr. and Mrs. Shaw, with whom I enjoyed being at Myrtle Beach during my stay. Please do write often. Elizabeth.
Mayhair Archive Collective is so grateful to be the caretakers of this abundant Shaw family collection. We look forward to cross-referencing these exceptional written materials with other Baba archive collections in the future. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see Darwin's replies to Elizabeth? What a dedicated Baba worker she was. Her example inspires us all today to go that extra mile for Baba.